At 50, clouds increase tonight with a low 33. Cloudy, chilly day tomorrow, the high 43. Partly sunny for Wednesday, the high Wednesday near 50. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
42 at O'Hare, 41 Lakefront. Next news, 8:30. Breaking news as it happens. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by CharlesEquipment.com, keeping you powered up no matter what the conditions.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Well, as President Trump announced yesterday, we got till April 30th to maintain those federal guidelines we've been more or less abiding for the last 15 days.
We will be extending our guidelines to April 30th to slow the spread. On Tuesday, we will be finalizing these plans and providing a summary of our findings, supporting data, and strategy to the American people.
So pace yourself with those streaming services. In addition to that, Saturday, the administration added language to the website of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security that workers supporting the operation of firearm or ammunition product manufacturers, retailers, importers, distributors, and shooting ranges are now deemed essential.
Thank goodness. I mean, if you keep open pot stores and liquor stores, you should keep open, gun stores and also the gun ranges, which they are here in Illinois, thank goodness. So at least we can go shoot our guns, Dan.
Exactly. Give you something to do outside and have a little bit of fun as well. And frankly, there is a public safety aspect to this, I believe, as well, as we've discussed on this show, with the decisions being made at the upper reaches of municipal government in big cities about things like, releasing prisoners from jail.
Yeah, we have to protect ourselves. I mean, yesterday morning, 9:20 a.m., about 20 rounds were fired in an alley right by our house. And we have an FBI agent nearby.
By your
Nobody
house.
was arrested. Yeah, in Chicago, by our house in Chicago. Some 20 shots plus were fired. Fire truck came, police, and people were scattered. But that's the fact why we have to protect ourselves.
Well, you also need to move to a safer neighborhood than Lakeview, apparently. You move down to Streeterville with me.
Oh, yeah, it's real safe.
There you go. I mean, it is Trump country. Well, it's Trump country, as you know, from the Jussie Smollett case.
Right. It's MAGA country.
Yeah, that's right. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by John Lott Jr. He's the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, author of books including The War on Guns and More Guns, Less Crime. John, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's great to talk to you guys.
Gun stores are essential. That was a welcome move by the president, was it not?
Well, it's something that I'm sure is going to work its way into these court cases. I mean, you have 7 states which have closed the gun stores in their states, and a number of municipalities also have restricted sales. And so, there are court cases challenging those, and I'm sure it's something that will be mentioned in the cases.
Do you think
go ahead,
there's ever a time it's more is more in our normal lives is shutting down and our freedoms are being watched, and the fact that if you have it and you don't have your asymptomatic, Lori Lightfoot, our mayor, could put you in a hotel for 14 days and lock you in basically. Do you think now is a time more than ever that we need to be able to protect ourselves because of possible civil unrest? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure just civil unrest, but just the dangers of crime. I mean, you have, as you mentioned, you have police departments or jails and prisons across the country which are releasing inmates. And it's understandable. They're worried that there may be particularly vulnerable people in the prison population that could be susceptible, and you have people in close quarters that are there. But, you have prisons which are releasing 25, in some cases even 50% of the prisoners that they have there. You have police around the country which are not arresting people because they don't want to put new people into the prison population because they figure people outside the prison may have the virus at a higher rate than those who are already in it. You have police departments. The Detroit Police Department has over a fifth, as of the middle of last week, has over a fifth of its police department, which is quarantined. The officers themselves are quarantined.
The police chief of Detroit has COVID-19.
Right. And so you have police departments around the country which are not responding to calls because they want to reduce the rate that their officers might be exposed to people with the virus. Los Angeles County Sheriff and the police department in the city there have given out gloves and masks and goggles to the police. But, you know, in the rough and tumble world of when you're actually arresting a criminal, the notion that your mask will stay in place there, you know, may be kind of a hopeless hope. And, you know, we're not at the zombie apocalypse type level, but just the being prudent, just making sure that you're prepared in case something goes wrong. I mean, people have bought extra supplies. Well, it's not too surprising that they want to go and be able to go and protect themselves and their families if the police departments are not able to go and do their job because you have a large percentage of the police who are sick or are in quarantine themselves.
It was just a week ago or so where Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles talked about dispatching the police, even as he was talking about releasing inmates from LA County Jail, saying that, you know, you got people going crazy buying guns out there. And that was quite a telling statement that releasing convicted criminals from prison, that's not crazy. Law-abiding people trying to obtain the means of their own protection at home when you're going to order them to stay in home, that's crazy.
Right, look, it'd be great if the police could be there to protect people, but they can't, even in normal circumstances, be there all the time. Obviously, police themselves recognize that they virtually always arrive on the crime scene after the crimes occurred. But now, more than ever, simply allowing people the option to be able to go and protect themselves is extremely important. And it's the most vulnerable people in our society who benefit the most from having guns. It's particularly women and the elderly, people who are relatively weaker physically, who get the biggest benefit from having the option to be able to go and protect themselves. I mean, who knows if the economy slows down more and criminals become desperate to go and get you know, resources themselves, what types of crimes we might face.
Well,
I mean, it's just being prudent.
Well, sure, and I mean you've already had incidents reported around the country of businesses that are shuttered and that have been broken into, and certainly the same could happen with homes. But I mean the ability to protect your private property, whether it's a business or a home,
or protect your body, or protect the body of a loved one.
What you mentioned those 7 states where they've shut down sales of weapons and gun ranges. What kind of rights do they have, and can they fight back?
Well, they're going through the courts right now. The thing is,
the courts are closed.
The courts for places where they've shut them down tend to be areas where the federal courts are still strongly controlled by Democratic nominees, and so it may take a while for these cases to kind of get up high enough where it may make a difference. I mean, Trump has made a lot of appointments to the federal bench. The thing is, Democrats had such a huge majority on federal courts that he's just bringing it into balance right now. I mean, you look at circuit courts, there are 24 states in the District of Columbia where you still have Democratic majorities, 26 states where you have Republican majorities. So, you know, you've just in the last week you had a case in Pennsylvania where the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, they have a 6-1 Democratic majority, but yet it was still a very close case, 4-3, where they upheld the state ban on gun stores there. You know, and you know, a case like that would have to go to the U.S. Supreme Court before it could be overturned.
So there's a lot of discussion about what a post-COVID-19 world is going to look like. You know, America, the West, is never going to be the same. Post-pandemic America, what that might look like in terms of education, in terms of regulation for bringing drugs to market. What about in terms of gun rights? Do you have concerns, despite Supreme Court decisions, that gun rights will be in the crosshairs once we're on the other side of this viral outbreak?
I mean, they've been in the crosshairs for years. I mean, just look at the amount of money somebody like Michael Bloomberg spends on political campaigns. In the last election cycle, he spent $110 million just on federal House races, an even larger amount on state legislative races. By contrast, that same cycle, the NRA spent $2.3 million compared to his $210 on federal House races. And Bloomberg has outspent the NRA by similar amounts over the 3 previous election cycles. So
yeah, let me be more specific, though. I don't necessarily mean that the top guys. I don't mean the politicians and the financiers. I mean in the crosshairs among the body politic, because as you know, what happens when the technocracy gets more power, when the administrative state gets more power, is the individual shrinks. And I'm wondering if there's popular support. This is how they expand their power, through popular support, people trading security, freedom for security. And so that is my concern.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess I hope, if anything, the opposite happens, that people realize that the police are important. I mean, anybody who's read my research knows that the police are probably the single most important factor for reducing crime. But people realize that the police are humans. I mean, it's not like, you and I can telecommute, okay? You can do a radio show from your home. Police don't have that option. Mm-hmm. Police have to actually go, as part of their job, come into physical contact with other people. And as I said earlier, just because you issue them face masks doesn't mean that face mask is going to stay in place when they go and have to arrest a criminal. And these individuals, put their lives on the line anyway. It's already a risky, dangerous job for them. And they are facing even greater dangers now than they have before. And the question is, when the police can't arrive, either because they've been given orders not to respond to calls, or they're sick themselves, or in quarantine themselves, what do people do? So I hope this is a wake-up call that when we especially when we have these types of pandemics, that even more so than normal, it's important that people have the option to protect themselves, because there may not be an officer who's able to be there to protect you.
He is John Lott Jr., president of the Crime Prevention Center, author of books including The War on Guns and More Guns, Less Crime. John, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being there.
Take care.
Thanks. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
We live in a world driven by information, where we hear about data privacy concerns and high-profile data breaches nearly every week. Organizations constantly face new information governance obligations like GDPR and the California Consumer Privacy Act. Take control of your documents and data with Governance Rules as a Service from IDT and Highland on Base. Now, with the help of IDT and Highland on Base, you can achieve both compliance and peace of mind by subscribing